Hi, I'm Amber, and I've moved from the UK to the US aged 28 with my husband Josh and our little boy Rory. I'm on a mission to explore the American culture and all of the differences from our old life in the UK. So join me as I travel around the States, seeing the sights, eating the food, and meeting the people, with some very special tour guides along the way. And to say thank you to the country that's welcomed my family, I'll be collecting lots of mementos and raising funds for some wonderful American charities. So be sure to hit subscribe and follow me on Instagram and TikTok as I discover the land of opportunity. Okay, is this thing on? Mic check 1, 2. Yes, follows me. And I think we're good to go. Hi guys, what did you think of the intro? My amateur skills, I am not kidding. I was underneath my duvet in bed and I had to record that about 50 times. Most of them had swear words in, but we got to the final cut. I'm probably never going to listen to it myself because it makes me cringe, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea of what to expect from this channel and what's coming. But first, before we get into traveling and exploring and meeting people, I thought that it would be a good idea to explain a few things. So I repeatedly get asked on social media, why have you moved to America? And more specifically, why have you moved to Florida? And often I respond to say, it's a long story, or for the sunshine. Now, both of these things are true, but there's a lot more to it than that. And when I've been reflecting and when Josh has been reflecting on how we ended up here, it's actually it's kind of difficult to figure out where it all began. I can't pinpoint a moment in time where I was like, I'm going to move to America. And it's more a series of events, things that have happened in each of our lives separately, and then as we come together, that have resulted in us being here. So today, I'm going to rewind and recap, and both of us are going to share our stories on how an English girl and a Scottish guy ended up in America. I think I need a cup of tea for this. Okay, refreshments secured. We're good to go. So, let's start with me before we meet Josh. I'm in my little boy's nursery because this is my happy place. This rocking chair has been to hell and back with me. Mothers out there, unite. So this is just where I feel most comfortable in sharing. So growing up, I grew up in the middle of nowhere actually. I was born to a farming family, my grandparents. My grandparents own a chicken farm in the Lincolnshire Wolds. It's on the east coast of England, kind of in the middle, on the way up. So we're not northern, we're not southern, we're Midlands, but we don't have a strong accent. And my entire childhood was spent outside, pretty much. I lived with my parents, my sister, I have an older sister, she's 4 years older than me, and she still lives reasonably close to home. And from a very, very young age, I knew that I didn't want to stick around there. I always wanted to be somewhere, anywhere that had more going on. I think I was a city girl trapped in a country location, and that's how I felt growing up a lot of the time. School for me was not a good experience. I hated school with a passion. I did pretty well. I got good grades. I was like book smart, but I didn't enjoy it. I was bullied from probably the end of primary school, which in the UK that's aged 11, I think, through my secondary school education, which is 11 till 16. I actually moved schools because of the bullying, and I just never really found somewhere that I fitted in. Again, the schools that I was at were in reasonably rural locations. There wasn't much going on, kind of that place where everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everybody's business, and you can't just be yourself. You have to fit in with the people around you because it's such a small place that being anything that's even slightly different puts a magnifying glass on you. So I just never felt like I fitted in. Because of that, I left school at 16 which you actually can't do anymore in England. I think you have to stay in some form of education until you're 18 years old. But luckily, I got my grades, got pretty much straight A's, and left. I was like, no, I'm done with this. I went to work in the nearest city to us, which was about 40 minutes drive away. The nearest city, it's called Lincoln. And I got a job by posting my empty CV through letterboxes into businesses. I knew I wanted to work in a corporate business. I wanted to be like, I'm going to wear a shirt and go to work at 16, like foolish. And I got a call. I managed to get a job as a legal cashier at a family-run law firm. So I was traveling to Lincoln every day. 16 in the UK, you can't drive. You don't drive until you're 17. So I was getting the bus 3 miles from my home to work at like 6 in the morning. And then home again. It was costing me almost as much as I was earning to get the bus. But I was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my career now. I'm going to be in finance, and watch me. Throughout this kind of time, I was becoming more aware of my family that already lived in America. So I have an uncle and an auntie and cousins who live in Faribault in Minnesota. And I had never visited them, but they'd been over together individually throughout the course of my childhood to visit. And I never really had a close relationship with them, but I always looked at them in admiration. I'm like, you were here on this farm and then you left. Wow. And they never made it like that. It wasn't like, ooh, look at what we've done. But I was just always envious of people that had gotten away, who had broken the mold, done something different to the normal person. So I admired them. I remember one time getting an invitation to one of my cousin's weddings and begging my mum and dad, like, please can we go? Please can we go? I really want to see what it's like. And I was told they had a pool in their back garden and they were going to cover it in glass and make it in a dance floor with all these lights. And I was like, I need to go. But we didn't have a lot of money growing up at all. We struggled a lot of the time. All of our money went into our 2-week family vacation in Spain or Portugal or France, often camping. Because we all love to travel and love the sunshine. That was like a running theme for our family. And so we couldn't go. We just couldn't afford to get on a plane to America for a wedding for a weekend. So we didn't go. And I remember seeing my grandparents' photos when they got back, and my other uncles' photos when they got back, and being like so jealous and so disappointed that we weren't there. And there's loads of those stories throughout my childhood of occasions when I really wanted to go and see and learn more, and we just couldn't. Okay, so back to working career. Everybody else my age going off, starting to go off to university, still having their summer vacation time, their summer holidays free, having all this time off to do what they wanted. I was like, okay, I need to do something for me. Didn't have a lot of money, even though I was working full time, because I was spending it all on transport. So I got one of my girlfriends and I was like, right, let's go to Malia in Greece. Let's go have a party week and do what people our age do. We're going to go and have it large. And I was 17 at this time. I had to get my parents to sign a letter to let me go on a flight without them. So I'm working a full-time job, earning a salary, but still had to get my parents' permission to fly abroad. In a pursuit of the sunshine and pursuit of living that teenage life, me and my friend went to Malia and had a party week, and it was crazy, and I had the worst hangover ever, because even at that age I used to get horrible stinking hangovers, which is why I pretty much don't drink anymore. We had a great time, and whilst we were there, I met my first boyfriend. Hot tea. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about that relationship, because it was, I want to say terrible. It ended terribly, like terribly, but it gave me a lot of opportunities. He was from a place down south that was like 4 or 5 hours from, maybe not that much, maybe 3 or 4 hours from my home. So this gave me an opportunity to move away and test the water, being somewhere that's not home and being somewhere that is a city and like stuff's going on, stuff's happening, and see how I got on with it. So anyway, not that long into our eventual relationship, I ended up moving away from home, and honestly, I never got homesick. I never looked back. My parents would come and visit, and I would go home and visit, and we would have like our 2 days together, home comforts, and then I would be like, okay, bye. Never was an issue at all. And actually, this relationship was the way that I first got to America. So as I said, growing up, we didn't have a lot of money, so our family holidays were always to Europe, which is a short flight. It's 2 or 3 hour flight. It's not that expensive. We would often be camping, or we would get a last minute deal on a villa and just enjoy the sunshine. And that was our holidays, and I love them. I have so many good memories in Europe growing up, and I managed to explore loads of places too, so I was super lucky. But I'd never been to America. So my first time going to America was aged 20. I was out there for my 21st birthday, and we went to Disney World, Orlando. So not really a taste of America. I'm not going to try and say anything other than that. This trip was actually after I had broken up with this boyfriend in a very traumatic and awful way. So I actually had to have some hypnotherapy to even be able to get on this flight, that his family, whether to share this, his family were not going to let me not go on the holiday without paying to change the name to somebody else. And the cost of that was a lot. It was pretty much the same price as the holiday, 2 weeks in Disney World, a lot of money. And I couldn't afford it. So my only option was to go. So I had some literal hypnotherapy to be able to go on this trip, and I went, and my saving grace was that I had a friend from school who was working in Disney World at the time. So she had gone to do one of those exchange summers where you can get a job in the parks, and she was doing that. I think this was her second year doing that. She was doing amazing. Like, she loved it, really throwing herself into seeing something else, doing something different with her summer. And again, I totally admired that, and so I spent a lot of time out there with her so that I didn't have to be with them. And that got me through those 2 weeks. I turned 21, I came home and never saw this guy again. That was it. So I was then back home. I was forced to be back with my parents financially. I took some time off work mentally, and kind of was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life next, because I knew, having been away from home, that I did not want to go back. But it was figuring a way out. America had always been the biggest dream, but it was totally a dream. Didn't think that it was going to be possible for me without marrying an American. How do I meet an American? I need to go to America. I don't have any money. How do I go to America? So I was researching ways. I looked at doing the Disney World exchange thing, but you needed a university degree at the time. Didn't have one. So I was looking for short-term work or short-term paid opportunities in America. I was happy to quit my job at the local law firm now and just go and see what happens, where I ended up. And I stumbled across the opportunity to work at a summer camp. I'd like to think most people have heard of summer camps, but maybe just from the movies. It's kind of similar to the movies, I won't lie. But basically, the summer camp culture in America is massive, mostly on the East Coast. There are places, camps, rurally set, where kids spend their summer doing activities, living in bunks, wooden cabins, and just having the time of their life. And the camps don't often have a lot of American staff because they're working full-time jobs, so they don't have the summers available, and they're more expensive, so they hire internationally. So there are loads of different companies and ways that you can go about finding a job at a summer camp in America. And I did some research online, found one of them, applied, was accepted, and went through interview process. And I just got cut off there because my alarm went off to tell me to hang out my duvet so that it's drying time for tonight, because we only have one because they're so expensive here. But anyway, to cut a long story short, I got accepted and got offered a job to work as a spinning teacher at a camp in upstate New York. This was heading into summer 2017, and off I went. Again, there's a long running theme here, which is linked to my personality. I'm always doing the different thing. I'm always taking the risk. I'm always being spontaneous. I'm always having a problem and figuring out, okay, this is where I want to be, or this is what I want to solve. How am I going to do it? It's, for me, it's like, where there's a will, there's a way. And my God, have I mentally exhausted myself over the years with finding these ways. It's not always been easy, but I think I've always found a way. So this was just another case. I was like, where there's a will, there's a way. I need to get a job in America. I had never taught a spinning class in my entire life, but I blagged my way through the interview, got myself on a bike a few times, and there I was in upstate New York. Summer 2017, best summer of my life. Best summer of my life. I would not hesitate to recommend any teenager, you have to be 18, but any teenager going into early 20s in the UK or Europe or any other country, taking this opportunity and just going and giving it a go, because wow, the job sucks a lot of the time. Like, it's long hours, it's hard work, you're exhausted, but you are surrounded by like-minded people. This is the first time in my life this has ever happened to me, where I felt like I was surrounded by people that had the same values, the same ambitions, the same outlook on life that I had, that were like, yeah, I don't want to just stay at home this summer, or I don't want to live at home, or I just want to go and do something different. And it was amazing. That was such a thing, such a turning point for my confidence. And I think the fact that this happened in America fueled my desire to live there, because, you know, everybody's goals and ambitions are in some way tinted, like rose tinted. I know America's not perfect, but a lot of the things that have been portrayed to me growing up, it's the dream, it's the American dream. And so having this first experience of fitting in, of being a part of something in America, just lit my fuse even more. However, I was surrounded by international people. So the whole marrying an American thing, probably, I mean, I was 21, about to turn 22 at this point. So for real, I probably wasn't thinking about getting married anyway, but, you know, I didn't meet any Americans, put it that way, or many Americans. Yeah, I had a great summer. I spent 7 weeks working at the summer camp, busting my ass, but meeting the coolest people, making actual, real friends that I still adore to this day, and got to travel. So my first real experience of America that wasn't Disney World or New York City, I travelled down the West Coast. I did a road trip that my uncle helped me to plan with 3 girls that I'd made really good friends with over the summer. We hired a car. We pretty much ate tinned cold spaghetti from Walmart because we had no money, but it was amazing. We saw so many national parks. We saw some really cool cities. We did some great beach trips. The weather was pretty good most of the time. And yeah, we were stinking and rotten by the end of it, and like hungry and malnourished. But the best memories. And I still look back on the photos and memories from that trip and think, wow, that was amazing. And there's so many people that were my age at the time that have never and will never experience that. They just went to uni, they went home during the summer and worked their bar jobs, and I am so envious of the people that are satisfied with that life, because I never was gonna be that person. Summer 2017, that is also the summer that I first met Josh, who is now my husband, spoiler alert, and who is not American, double spoiler alert. Hello, Josh.
Hello.
Welcome to my YouTube channel.
Thank you for having me.
This is weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird. Okay. Let's get stuck straight into it. So this episode is all about why we've moved to America and why Florida specifically. So I've kind of gone through my childhood already and sort of said about all these occasions or events throughout growing up before I even met you that kind of, I don't know, sparked that ambition inside of me, I suppose. And I know from being married to you that you have a similar but different story. So I want to get back to the very beginning. Can you tell us where you were born, a bit about your childhood, family life, that sort of thing?
Okay. Do I talk to you or the camera?
You can just talk to me because I feel like you'll be more comfortable talking to me.
I was born in a small town in Scotland. It's called Dumfries, but I lived my entire childhood in an even smaller town called Gretna, which is literally, it's the very first town in Scotland. So it's right on the border between Scotland and England, which hence the not strong Scottish accent.
Yeah.
And it was a tiny little town, 3,000 people. Everybody knew each other. Everybody knew my family, and it was great. It was great. I know you hate it. I don't know why.
I hate it. I hate it.
It's a beautiful little town. It's actually very famous for weddings.
Yeah,
You're from the UK and you've probably heard of Gretna Green.
I don't even know if it would go further than the UK. I honestly
it's
don't.
It's the Las Vegas of the UK in terms of like
coming on a bit strong.
Weddings.
There's no casinos or legal ones anyway.
Okay, but you get married there.
Yeah. So it's Gretna Green, as you might have heard of it, is a very famous town. Because it was
runaway weddings.
Yeah, runaway weddings. So because it's in Scotland, you're allowed to get married there at a younger age than you were in England.
Yeah, correct. So back in the olden days, and I don't even know what that is.
No, let's not
1800s, whatever. The legal age to get married without parents' consent in England was 18.
Yeah.
And the legal age to get married without parents' consent in Scotland was 16.
Yes.
So because Gretna was the first town on the border between Scotland and England, literally you walk across the border, you're in Gretna.
And
the laws changed. You can get married at 16 without your parents' consent. So we had a lot of people from England crossing the border into Scotland, into Gretna, to get married, and they were running away from their family to get married without consent at 16 years old.
It is that place where you either have to fit in or get out. I think that's fair to say. We always wanted something different. We weren't satisfied.
I was different in that sense.
Yeah.
Very different in that sense.
But we couldn't necessarily let that out growing up or express that growing up because it just wasn't the place to express that. Fair?
No, but yes, very fair. But I think people realised that I was a bit different because I was a good boy.
Well, yeah.
I was a goody two-shoes. I was a good boy. I never got in trouble. But all the friends that I was with, the popular kids, the friends that I made, they weren't afraid to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And I was tagging along with them. They were getting in trouble, doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
You managed to coast.
And I coasted with them, yes.
You managed to coast. Where I was just like outwardly not fitting in, getting bullied because I was different. Josh was different but managed to fly under the radar.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Yeah.
Happy? Okay.
Yeah.
So you lived with your parents and your little brother?
Yeah. Parents, mum and dad, little brother Lewis, who's 3 years younger than me.
Yeah.
We had a fantastic family life, family upbringing. It was great. Because we're in this small town, all of my family were in this one town.
Yes.
So I had both sets of grandparents.
Super close to your family.
All my aunties, all my cousins, all my uncles, all of my extended family were in the small town, so within a walking distance of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we had a really, really close extended family.
Yeah.
So I would visit my grandparents daily, had a great relationship with them. My aunties I'm really, really close with, and one of them is only 12 years older than me, so she was more like a friend and like a sister than my auntie.
They actually shared a birthday party for their 18th and 30th, which to me is like hell.
What? Can we swear on this or not?
I think I've sworn.
What a fucking night it was. All my 18-year-old mates, all of her
30-year-old mates. Blah.
What a night.
Yeah,
Greta's
not for
never
me.
seen a night like it.
I'm not surprised. Not for me, that.
Super.
Not for me at all. But yeah, I hear about this a lot. We actually had a lot of similarities growing up. Like, we would always go, all of our money would go into a summer holiday. We actually went to some of the same... For all we know, we were in the same place at the same time growing up and just never met.
Yeah.
Because we went to some of the same camping holidays in Europe and, had a very similar...
That was our holiday every year.
Yeah.
We would pack a car to the rafters.
Yeah.
And we would drive...
Go and find the sunshine.
We'd drive to France.
Yeah. So what was your first experience of America? Because that came for you a lot younger than it came for me.
So my first experience was a holiday that my parents worked blood, sweat and tears to make happen.
I can imagine.
So we'd saved that. We'd talked about going to Florida, going to Orlando, going to the parks, Disney, Universal, all that. But in those days, okay, I say those days, 2004 it was, so I was 14, and it was an expensive holiday.
Super expensive.
So they had to save for years to make this holiday happen.
Mm-hmm.
When times were hard and money was tight, and we did it. So it was a 3-week holiday. So we did 2 weeks in Orlando at the parks, going to Universal and Disney. We got a villa, which was totally different because we had a villa with a pool. So we just loved the fact that we had a pool. And yeah, we did the parks every day, and it was awesome. And it was like the first taste of America being huge and massive. And bear in mind, we've come from this small tiny town where everyone knows each other. We're now at a park like Disneyland, which is probably the same size as the town
Gretna, yeah, for sure,
that we live in. So that was the first taste. But the main sticking point for me, and the thing that I remember, it's not the parks, it's not the villa,
because
anything like that.
I think it's a running joke as well, like Disney World, it's America but it's not America.
Yeah, of course it's not.
I said the same thing, that was my first experience of America too, and it gave me a taste, but definitely left me wanting more. But you guys,
well, we did the third week because it was a huge holiday for us. We made the most of it. So 2 weeks at the parks, and then we had a week where we hired a car and we drove around Florida. So we went to like Clearwater and Naples and down here like Fort Lauderdale. We went to Miami, things like that. And you said like the first real taste of America. When we went to Miami for the first time, I remember it clear as day. I was 14. We parked up the car, checked into this hotel, whatever. We were right on Miami Beach, and we went out and we walked up and down the beach, and I was like completely awestruck by Miami Beach. Like this is Miami Beach.
This is Beach. I've seen it on the telly.
I've seen it on the telly. I've seen it in movies. Like, this is really Miami Beach.
Yeah.
And then that night, and I remember this clearer than anything of the entire holiday, they had, when we were driving, you used to have these like little leaflets that you could pick up that had offers, like coupons.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad picked up a coupon where this restaurant in Miami offered to pick you up from your hotel in a limousine.
Oh yeah, I remember this story. I remember you telling me.
And take you to the restaurant. You would eat at the restaurant, and then it would take you in the limousine back to your hotel. And it was expensive.
Yeah.
It was a bit more expensive, but we managed to convince my dad to do it. And as a 14-year-old, we got picked up in a limousine outside this hotel in Miami, driven to a restaurant, had a lovely meal, steak dinner, whatever, and driven back in a limousine. And I remember me and my brother stood up in the limousine. The roof thing came over, and me and my brother were stood up on the top of this limousine driving through Miami, and I was just like, bang.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
That's the moment for you.
There's
definitely more of a moment, like a turning point for you.
But my dad always says now, he's said this for years, my dad said from that moment that we went to Miami, he knew that I was going to live here one day,
Right.
because he said he could see it in my eyes,
See the like
that
click.
this was what I wanted, this is where I was meant to be. And it was like, it was just like a click moment as a 14-year-old boy, like, holy shit, there's a bigger world out there than this tiny little town that I've grew up in. Happily.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. We both had happy childhoods, and we both had really fond memories and experiences in the UK, and there's lots of things that we miss about the UK, but we've always had that desire for something different and more. Not just more, but different and more. And yeah, you had that click moment. It's funny, my dad always says, and I think he brought this up in our wedding speech as well, that I had just, ever since I could talk, told everybody that I was going to live in America, and neither them nor I can pin that down to a moment. But it's just something, and it's funny that happened for you too, in a different way, a different time, a different reason, but it was just like, I'm going to live in America. It's going to happen one day. That was your first taste of America. So let's skip ahead a little bit to... Let's skip all the way ahead to camp. So I have talked a little bit about camp because that was my first authentic taste of America, was traveling after camp and stuff. And saying, you know, it was a total doorway for me. And that probably more my life-changing moment. But your camp story came about in a little bit of a different way. So let's roll back to 2012, 2013, when you first came across the opportunity to come to camp, where you were at, how that decision-making process happened, how you even heard about it.
I had just graduated from university, just finished. I was actually doing my dissertation at university at the time, and my dissertation was destroying my soul, and I hated university. I couldn't wait to get finished. And whilst I was going through it, I thought I had to have something to look forward to once I'd finished uni.
Yeah.
And I wanted to travel. I always had this itch to go back to America. I'd always heard of summer camps. I'd always seen it in the movies and Parent Trap, and I was obsessed with New York City because I watched Friends religiously. Still do.
Still do, all the time.
It's the best. And I was desperate to go back to America, and I'd heard of summer camps, so I had no ties. I'd actually just split up from a girlfriend that I had, and one of my best friends, his sister, had signed up with this agency that I'd never heard of, and she told me that she'd signed up, and I thought, well, you know what, I'll have a look. So I went on the website, had a look, and it ticked all the boxes that I wanted to. I was a football coach, I was a football player, and I'd done a lot of coaching, had qualifications, I had a pretty good background in football.
A lot more experience than I had when I first went to camp.
Yeah, I was a decent applicant, I think, because I had qualifications and experience coaching football. I accepted a job at a camp in upstate New York, which was the camp that I wanted to go to, got offered a football coaching job there, and went to camp, 23 years old.
2013 this was.
2013,
first year.
Yeah, and just instantly fell in love with the whole summer camp environment.
Yeah.
I was very sporty, I enjoyed working with kids, I enjoyed coaching football, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life from there. But when I got to camp and I got settled into the job of being a camp counsellor, football coaching, in the sunshine, met loads of amazing people. That blew my mind totally, because, as I said, I came from this small town with 3,000 people. I got to meet people from all over the world, started building friendships, and I just totally loved the whole summer camp environment, summer camp culture, the job, everything about it I just got straight away. Camp just clicked for me, and I was like, this is where I'm meant to be. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is how I'm supposed to spend my summer. What can I do to figure this out longer term? Planned a traveling trip after camp. You get 30 days on your visa. Flew to San Francisco. We hired a car there. There were 7 of us in one car with 7 suitcases and everything. We had shit strapped to the roof and whatever. We just winged it.
Made it work.
We did a road trip, 30-day road trip down the California coast. Yeah. So we done San Francisco, all the attractions there, the Golden Gate Bridge, Alcatraz was awesome, Fisherman's Wharf, places like that. Then we drove down the coast. I can't remember the exact order, but we did like the Big Sur and San Diego and Carmel Beach and Los Angeles, which,
Yeah, I feel the same.
okay, it was cool.
Yeah, again, seen it on the telly.
Yeah. LA, went further down, and then Yosemite National Park
That's
was wow.
yeah.
So we camped there. We were only supposed to be there 2 nights, but ended up staying for 6 or 7, just camping, hiking every day, waterfalls, cooking dinner on an open fire.
Yeah,
It was
so
just
it's just such a cool place. If you,
unbelievable.
that would be, I don't consider myself a massively outdoorsy person,
Same.
but Yosemite is like when people
Mind blowing.
when people say it's like a screensaver, it's
it
like a
is.
screensaver.
It is a
It is a screensaver, but it's like you can't see past the fact that this is a screensaver because
Right.
it's just so gobsmackingly stunning.
Yeah.
Really beautiful.
And we saw a bear, which was pretty
That's
cool.
pretty cool too. Since
So
then,
there-
seen lots of bears.
Yeah. So then
Very cool.
Yosemite. Well, I'm not done.
Oh, sorry.
How dare you?
As you were.
And then further down, Grand Canyon, similar.
Yeah.
Grand Canyon just looked like a painting rather than an actual place, and we camped in the Grand Canyon and hiked, and unreal. And then we went to Vegas.
Yeah.
We had a week in Vegas, which
It's far
way
too long.
We lost a lot of money, a lot of dignity, and we had a lot of fucking fun. And then that finished off the trip. It was 30 days. I borrowed money, but we spent the time. We slept some nights in the car because we didn't have a lot of money. We used to book one hotel room in every place it went to, and we'd take turns sleeping in the bed.
Yeah, everybody in.
We ate
I know, I just said
crap food from Walmart.
we ate out of tins cold from
But-
Walmart, so that was the best we could do.
But you did what you did.
Yeah.
We went to like pool party. We saved our money for the fun things, and we
Yeah.
figured everything else out. But
Yeah.
that was like the greatest.
Young, wild and free in America.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was, to me, that was the American dream
Yeah,
right there. That
100%.
was
Wasn't
seeing-
based about money at all, it was the experience. And I suppose the difference for you was that you weren't just hooked to America at that point, you were hooked to camp. So you just loved, like you said, you loved the summer camp culture. For me, camp, I loved the people and I loved the experience of America. Wasn't fully sold on the job or
Don't I know it?
the living. Anyway, so yeah, you were hooked on everything about camp.
Yeah.
But for me, even as somebody who wasn't hooked about camp, the opportunities and the doors that it opens had me going back. Like there was no hesitation in my mind when I left in 2017 that I was going to be back for different reasons, but I was going to be back.
Yeah.
And you were going to be back probably for the rest of your life.
If I could find a way to make it happen, which I eventually did. then
Yeah. So next week is all about how we moved to America. So I don't want to touch on that right now. But what I don't think I've shared with you guys before is that Josh has actually lived in America before. So you managed to get a short-term, a 2-year visa,
18 months.
18-month visa to live and work in America back in 2015?
Correct.
Okay, so can you talk to me about how that opportunity arose and then what it was like?
Okay. So this was going into my 3rd year at camp. So I'd returned multiple years. My 3rd year, and the camp that we work for, they decided that they wanted to hire somebody to work in their winter office, which is based in Coral Springs in Florida.
Right.
So they put an advertisement out. There's 400 staff at this camp. They put an advertisement out. Feel free to apply, anyone that wants to. And I was like, I've got nothing to lose. So I submitted an application to work with them full time.
So this was your third summer at camp.
Third summer at
right,
camp.
got it.
And this was at the start of the summer season.
Mm-hmm.
Put an application in, heard nothing about it. I heard of all the other people that had applied, and there was a lot of talk about, oh, he's applied, she's applied, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And these were all people that I expected to get it above me.
Yeah.
But anyway, the owner came and spoke to me. We had a good conversation. He asked about what I bring to the table, whatever. And then on the second last day of camp, I think it was, the owner came to me and said that he wanted to hire me and one of my best friends from camp.
Amazing.
So instead of taking one person, he was going to take 2, which was huge because 1, I was friends with this guy already.
Yeah.
2, it was another international that was going to go through the same process as me and the same experience.
Yeah.
3, I had somebody to live with.
Yeah.
And he hired us. We got the 18-month J1 visa.
Which was if you got a degree,
Yeah, so correct. Yeah, so you need
that
to
was
have
a fairly easy. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a time consuming or expensive to.
No, it's a J1 visa, so it's still short term. It's a trainee management visa.
Right.
So the purpose of the visa is to gain skills working at an American company that you can then take back to your home country to utilize.
Yeah.
So a short term visa, 18 months. You need to have a degree for that, which
Yeah.
I did and he did. And yeah, it came out
2015.
2015, November 2015.
Yeah.
Lived with the owner of the camp for the first 3 months in his multi-million-dollar home in Parkland, Florida, and like saw the wealthy side of Florida and America and living. And then when my friend came over in February, we got a house together, and there was 2 of us and another girl from camp that we knew.
That
Dixie.
lived there anyway?
No, she came here for a different job, just totally by chance, and
Oh,
she
okay.
needed somewhere to live. So the 3 of us got a house. So there's 3 of us, young, single, free, 25 years old, 24, 25 years old, getting paid an okay salary, not a lot, but
Yeah.
okay. We paid all our bills and still had plenty of money, and there was 3 young people in a house in Florida.
And that was it.
And that was it. Like we
That
had
14-year-old boy inside of you must have been screaming.
It was unbelievable. Like we went to work, we did the work, whatever, we worked in the office, learned a lot about camp, and
Yeah.
that set us up for the future to
Yeah.
get us to where we are now,
Mm.
future talk. But on our downtime, we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we went to the beach on a weekend. We would go out in Fort Lauderdale. We'd go out in Miami. We would try and meet girls and fail miserably, and
Yeah.
we would have house parties, and we just there was a
Threw
little
yourselves into it.
bagel shop just down the corner, so I loved I'd wake up on a Saturday morning, and because of the time difference, all of the Premier League football was on, so I'd sit and watch the Premier League football at like 7:30 in the morning, go and get myself a bagel, and then go to the beach for the day.
I can't tell you how
Absolutely.
many times Josh has told me about that exact same routine on a Saturday morning as well.
Best.
And I know I keep harping on a lot in my content about
Pre-kids.
is the American dream real, and is it just for the rich or whatever? But for you were living the American dream.
That's the dream.
Just getting up, the sun was shining, walking down the road to get a bagel.
Mhm.
That was it. Simple but effective.
Simple.
Yeah.
That was my first taste of living in America, working here.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were in Florida for like 9 months, and then we'd be up in camp for the
Yeah,
summers.
over the summer. So you got a bit of both worlds as well.
Yeah. So we got New York, we got Florida.
You were like
and
snowbirds.
that
kind
was
of.
it was just and we went through a few different options to stay in the country at that point.
Right.
So we got presented with the option for the H1B visa, which is a lottery, which I'm sure we'll go into another time. But
Yeah, I'm going to go
tried for
through
that
all
a
of
few
these
times, didn't
things
work.
next week because you knew from that
I wanted to
18
do
months
it.
that you wanted to stay here.
Correct.
Like you wanted to find a way to stay here, and it just didn't work out in that time frame.
No, visa ended 2017. We had to go home.
You had to go home, and actually, it was at the end of that 18-month visa you had to go home. You managed to get back to camp for the summer, just to do the summer, like you'd been doing years previous, and that was my first year. So that's how we met. That was the first time we met.
And
However,
you tried to take my job.
yeah, that's what I was going to say, literally.
You tried to
So-
apply for my job. My visa was run out, so you wanted my job.
Yeah, I know everybody talks about like that love at first sight thing, and we did have. We'll get to this. We did have our moment. We did have like our epiphany and our like souls aligning moment, which I'll talk about. But it definitely wasn't in 2017. In 2017, I met you and saw you living in America, which was all I wanted to do. And I knew that your job had come to an end. And so I was like, I'm going to make friends with this guy and he's going to help me to take his job. And I was like, see you later, Scotland. I'm going to live here. And it didn't work.
No,
It didn't work. I applied, so they were hiring again. The camp was hiring again to replace you and your friend. And I applied and I heard nothing similarly to you to begin with. And it ended up that because the visa paperwork and everything, it's not difficult, but it's just extra work. And they actually this time, by chance, had an application from an American. So that was that. They hired an American. There was no job, and we both went home after the summer. I went back to my hometown, and you went back to your hometown. You didn't.
Well, I moved. I started.
2017. You went back to Scotland.
I went back to Scotland.
You went back to Scotland. Basically, as you can tell, the period before we met, we both led separate lives, but a lot of similarities, a lot of crossover, and always had the same goal, like consistently had the same goal that we were going to be in America at some point. So fast forward, we both end up back at camp summer 2018. My apologies. I'm still teaching spinning. You've upgraded at this point.
I was a group leader.
You're a group leader. So you're managing staff rather than coaching football. At this point, I don't know why I'm laughing. I don't know what's funny about that. I'm going to laugh.
Yes, I was managing staff.
Big boy. So it was 2018 when we connected on a deeper level. So this was we talk about this moment quite a lot. This was our, oh, okay, there might be something more here moment. Pardon the interruption there. Josh needed to take a call. So going back to where we're going into summer 2018, which is when we first realised that we were soulmates.
You've never said that before.
No, I've never said that before, it's true. But we do often talk about like the defining moment in, oh shit, we're not just friends, which was the first time that we like touched. Absolutely no dodgy business going on here. But we knew each other in 2017 not very well. We'd exchanged conversations. We'd been on a few nights out together in like large groups of people. I remember actually our last night of camp, that night that we were out, we had some kind of rap battle. I can't remember what the song was. Me and you. Do you not remember that?
No.
Yeah, I remember it. I honestly can't remember why we first crossed paths, but for some reason I was working, you were walking past me, you needed something from me work-wise. I can't remember what it was. This is like middle of the summer, and you grabbed my hand. I'll show you. So I'm stood working, and you grabbed my hand, and we were going like this. Something along these lines, right?
Yeah.
Weird. But
You're making it sound really creepy.
it was creepy.
No, it wasn't.
But at the time, it wasn't. I don't know what it was, but it was that for me, and I think for you as well, and we've talked about this a lot since, it was that moment that you don't think exists, where it's just you and somebody else, and there's nothing else around.
It was a moment where I thought, oh, she might be interested in me.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even know that at that time. Honestly.
Well, no.
Neither
did I.
No.
So that's when I was like, oh, okay, maybe.
I had never looked at, probably because you're Scottish, I won't lie. I'd never looked at Josh and thought boyfriend material, husband material, or anything like that, honestly. And so when we had that moment, and my job at that very moment in time was to help kids cross the road. There's kids getting run over behind me because I'm so in on this moment that there's nothing else going on. And it was weird. And then we obviously exchanged whatever it was that you needed. You carried on. And I just remember standing there and being like, that was weird. That was weird was how it was left. And we kept finding excuses, I suppose, to work together or to hang out. Yeah, finding reasons. Josh had his own room at this time. Am I allowed to talk about this? Josh had his own room at this time, which was like, oh my God, you've got your own room.
I had a bit more of a...
You were more senior because of the relationship you had with Kat.
Yes, I'd been there for a good few years at that point, and people knew me from the job that I did. And
yeah. So you were...
So you wanted to try and get him the boss.
No,
to be honest.
That's actually not true. For real, that's not true.
Okay.
At this point, I was like, no, I don't want to do camp anymore. This is just people. This is a means to an end. And a way to not be at home, but still not be completely broke. We kept finding excuses to hang out together. You had your own room. It had hot running water, a private shower with a door. And I was like, get me in there. So one night we were supposed to be playing soccer together, football together. And the heavens opened, like full torrential rainforest storm. So the plan for a staff soccer game, which happened quite often, was cancelled. So we hung out in your room. It was my night off, obviously, because I was going to be playing this game. It was my night off, your night off. So we ended up just hanging out in your room. We watched a movie. Like nothing happened, but we just, I think it was American Pie we were watching, wasn't it? But we just talked through the whole thing. Like we didn't watch, it's a movie we'd seen before, but we didn't watch it. We were just chatting the whole time.
Yeah.
Fast forward a few nights, we were still hanging out as much as possible, and then it was my night off.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I love telling this story. I love telling this story. It was my night off leading into my day off, so I was allowed to like leave basically. You had a night off but not a day off, but you were going out. There was a whole group of people, your friends. There were different friendship groups, but a group of your friends who were going out drinking that night. And I was like, I am exhausted. We're nearing the end of the summer here. I've gone out drinking plenty. I don't have much money left. I need to wait to get paid. I just want to sleep. You were like, fine, go sleep in my room because I have a bed and it's private and I'm going out. So, okay, fine. So I went and slept in your room, and at God knows what time, early hours of the morning, you come stumbling in, absolutely hammered.
Yeah, okay.
Stumbling in and obviously wake me up. And I'm like never happy to be woken up, by the way. Not happy to be woken up. But seeing the amusing side of you being drunk, because I don't think I've really ever seen you drunk before. And you climb into bed. You roll over to me and I'm awake and I'm like, are you okay? Like, do we need a sick bucket up in here? Like, is all well? And you just go, do you want to say it? Should I say it?
No, you can say it.
And you just look up at me with your big puppy dog blue eyes and you say, I would give my left nut to sleep with you. And I will forever love telling that story because it just cracks me up.
I don't know why the left one.
I don't know why it was the left one. Is the left one better? You're cutting your head off.
I like them both equally, to be honest. And you've had both my balls ever since that moment.
Pretty much, yeah, literally, in a vice. That was our first night together. And again, it was like everybody says that it is, and like you never think it's going to happen. And how we got there was a strange old road. It wasn't that instant see you from across the room, you're my soulmate thing, but we definitely had those moments. And I think without admitting it, because we both had other plans after the summer, we kind of had an inkling at that point, like
it was exciting.
Yeah,
we got to know each other.
But it wasn't just like I want to hook up with this guy. It was.
We talked a lot. We got to know each other, and we realised that we had a lot in common. And it was an environment where we saw each other every single day.
Yeah, and we saw like the best and worst of each other too, and I think that's why generally relationships that start at places like summer camp are like serious quite quickly, because you see the no makeup, you see the exhausted, you see the frustrated, you see the work ethic, you see the fun, you see the drunk, you see the way they interact with friends, the way they interact with kids. Mm-hmm. And it's just, yeah, you really get to know each other, whether it's friends or more than friends, whoever it is that you're interacting with at summer camp, you get to know them on such a deep level so quickly that they feel like you've known them forever after like 2 weeks. It's crazy. We carry on through camp, spending as much time together as we can, but not calling it anything and not mentioning it to anyone, because it just... Yeah, it wasn't
going anywhere.
It wasn't going anywhere. I was going to Australia for 2 years. I wasn't going to go back to camp at all. And you were going home and going back to camp because you had a job that would allow you to do that at that time. So that was it. We were parting ways. And we were pretty cut up about it on that last night. Me more than you.
Yeah.
Don't like to admit it because I am cold-hearted and I like to maintain that personal brand.
Which you do pretty well.
Which I do pretty well most of the time. But yeah, I was upset to be leaving because that was it. We were never going to see each other again. And I remember I was traveling with my girlfriends in Mexico for a week, and the girl that I was going to Australia with was one of that group, and she pretty much ran out of money, and we had time to kill before we had a job in Australia and before we had our flight to Australia. So we needed somewhere to be.
Mhm.
I actually had my 23rd birthday. I think my 23rd birthday.
Third.
Yeah, in Mexico. I was at Coco Bongo's, amazing. And I remember you were the first text that I got, like the stroke of midnight. You text me saying something like, I have a print screen of it somewhere, but I won't embarrass you. But it was something like, happy birthday, really enjoyed getting to know you this summer. Something like that, that from a guy, he is a soft touch, you are a soft touch. But I thought it was thoughtful. You'd obviously stayed up to send that message, to be the first in my inbox. And it was nice. I noticed it. I was consumed by tequila, but I did notice it. My friend was running out of money, and so we had the option to go back to camp and work for a week. And I was like, oh, what? We can go back to camp? Oh, that sounds awful. Let's go, because Josh was still there. I knew you were still there. I knew you were going to be there the week that we were looking to kind of kill, and it would make us a little bit of money, so I could use my friend as an excuse. But really, my personal motivation was to get back and spend more time with you, because that was going to be the last week ever.
Mm-hmm. And then we spent that week
literally together all the time, awake all night, every night.
We stayed up talking every
single night for hours.
Which
and
we've never done since.
No, since. And before, because let me tell you, I am a sleepy girl. I need sleep. I don't function on no sleep. I hate being woken up. I hate staying up late. And we stayed up all night, every night. Just talking shit.
Laughing.
And you know how people always talk about like their goals and ambitions, you know, do you want kids? Do you want to get married? We were always talking about, we want to move to America. We had that common goal. And I think that really helped solidify what we had, and solidify that it was going somewhere.
And then that weekend did.
And
that was rough.
Oh god, that was rough.
Had an entire week of really getting to know each other.
Yeah,
every day.
Yeah, I had to get up at like 3 a.m. or something to drive to the airport for our flight to Australia, and
that was going to be that.
Oh,
you were going to Australia.
I was driving, and I was like the whole journey to the airport, at the airport, on that like 24-hour flight, whatever it is. It was horrible. Now in Australia, you have to get your second year. So you can get a year if you're under 30 quite easily. At the time, for your second year visa, you had to do, how long was it? 3 months. 3 months of farm work. So we managed to get, is it 3 months? Mm-hmm. Fact check. We managed to get a job in the outback, me and my friend in the outback, on like a ranch.
You were fingering cows.
I was not. I was fucking shouldering them. No, I had to take the, what's the word? The female
reproductive.
Yes, you were taking.
I don't know.
Neutering them, stopping them.
My hand up a cow before.
Stopping them from having babies. Anyway, farm girl. Want to farm a girl? No, never a farm girl. It was miserable. It was grueling. It was so hot. The facilities out there were terrible. It was hard just to keep clean because of all the red dust and red sand. Like, you were just never clean. And after a few weeks, my friend had a fall. She fell off some steps and didn't break her hip, but pretty much broke her hip. I forget the technical what happened, but the pain and the treatment and the severity of it was like she'd broken her hip. Had to like call the helicopter ambulance. They couldn't come out there because of how far away we were from everything. So they had like a medical chest there, had to inject morphine into her arse cheek and then try and drive her like 4 hours through desert to a hospital, and it was terrible. Her recovery was going to be long. She needed treatment and really wanted a second opinion from the UK, so she had to go home. And between arriving and that happening, we'd been talking a lot like FaceTiming as much as possible, despite the time difference, getting up at like 5 a.m. to FaceTime each other and stuff like that. The signal was terrible, but we were making the best of it and talking about we need to just try and make this work.
So the stars aligned, your mate broke a hip, you had to come home.
Yeah, pretty much. It was another great excuse because honestly, I think that would have happened anyway. I think I was going to come home anyway. As you can tell from generally my life story, I'm a risk taker, I'm spontaneous, but I'm also really stubborn. So if I'm doing something, I'm doing something. So for me to give up the Australia thing that I had planned, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to be on Australia. I'm going to be there for 2 years. This is how I'm going to do it. And to just be like, bin.
And come to Scotland.
And come to Scotland, people. Mrs. I hate the weather.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to England, so...
Yeah, also that. And I didn't want to go home, so... And you had a flat. And anyway, it worked out. We moved in together straight away because...
after a few weeks.
I had no job. I went out finding jobs.
It was all or nothing.
It was all or nothing. We went all in and it was rocky the first few weeks. My God, there were definitely times when we both thought, like quite openly discussed that we both thought, what the fuck have we done? Like, this was a mistake. I hate him. No, I know, maybe sometimes. But no, it was tough because it was an adjustment way quicker than we really wanted to make. But that was it. It was all or nothing. So we figured it out.
But we laughed.
We laughed. We still laugh. We laughed a lot. Fast forward a long way. Obviously, we got engaged. Obviously, we got married. Obviously, we had a child, which was definitely not part of the plan before we moved to America. But the common theme was always everything we were doing, although we were getting settled in the UK, the end goal was always to get here. And so next week, we're going to talk about how we got here. So I kind of want to wrap this episode up by saying why, or reiterating why Florida specifically, because there's obviously lots of things that have happened throughout our lives and lots of experiences that have happened throughout our lives separately and together that have led to us taking the jump, taking the risk, moving to America, knowing that there's always going to be people judging, there's always going to be people that don't agree with our life choices, are envious of our life choices, and therefore have bad things to say. I've always been like, well, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? So we end up going back to the UK. So we end up moving to Timbuktu. So we end up in a 1-bedroom apartment because we can't afford whatever. Like, what's the worst that can happen? So we've always been doers. We don't just talk about it, like we figure out a way to do it and we go and do it. And I've definitely pushed more of that out of you as we've gone along. But it's paid off. Mm-hmm. My stubbornness and drive and your willingness to ride with me has paid off.
Yeah.
Still pays off.
Absolutely.
Right?
Every day.
I know Florida gets a bad rep, but
we don't know enough about it to defend it.
Yeah.
But we're learning and we love it.
Yeah, and we're both happy here. I'm not saying that we're going to be in Florida forever. There's definitely parts about Florida that we don't like. For me, I find it very flat and ugly in South Florida where we are. One thing I used to really like about the UK was like the scenery, the greenery, the architecture, and where we are in Florida, there's not enough of that. And that's part of the reason why I've launched this whole channel, because we want to figure out where our fit is, but it is narrowed down by the fact that I need year-round sunshine.
Yeah, that's the biggest draw.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. I know I joke when people ask and say like, sunny, we're moving here because it's sunny, but there's a lot of truth in that. I've always been miserable during the winter months, like mentally, physically, outwardly, actually sad when there's so much darkness and so much cold and wet. And so, yeah, that's why we chose Florida. People here.
We have ties here. We have to be here for.
Yeah, which we'll talk about next week. Yeah. There is part of the how story is also why Florida. But you also felt like this area. You knew some people here. You thought it would help with the transition, and I trusted your judgment on that. So that's why we ended up in Florida specifically.
Cut.
So I hope that explains why we've ended up in America and more specifically Florida. But if you have any other questions or you want me to go into more detail about anything that Josh and I talked about today, then go ahead and drop me a comment. Don't forget to stay tuned next week. I'm going to be talking about how. So not just how we got here and our story, but I'm also going to try and share as much information as possible about how, like, there are other ways to get here, not just the way that we've done, or not just marrying an American, etc. Because I mean, we've done a lot of research in our relationship, and like, if I've done the work, why not share it with you? So that's next week, and then going forward, I'm going to be out in the big bad world. I'm going to be trying to see as much of America as possible, explore different states, different cities, popular areas, tourist areas, and stuff that only the locals know about. I'm going to be trying as much American food as possible because I just love food. And I'm going to be meeting up with a lot of people on the way. So some friends that I've made, some influential people that I've come across, and some people that you will know, other creators, and also some other people that have made the move and sharing their experience too. So yeah, lots to come on this channel. I hope you are interested in following along, me just out there in America figuring it out. And if there's anyone that you want to see, or anything that I need to try, or anywhere that I need to visit, then go ahead and let me know. And please follow along on TikTok for some more tidbits and just general dry British sense of humour. And Instagram, I need to post more on Instagram than I do. Sorry. But my handle is the same on both platforms. So it would mean the world to me if you followed along. See y'all next week.